Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual public info meeting for State Project 00920695, which is the rehabilitation of bridge number 3015 A and B, carrying the I-91 southbound and I-91 southbound on-ramp from Willow Street in the city of New Haven, Connecticut. My name is Corey Burrows from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and I'm the MC for tonight for this virtual public information meeting. We hope that everybody finds this presentation informative and that we'll be able to address any questions or concerns you may have. I also want to thank the City of New Haven for their coordination and for coordinating with the project team and for helping make tonight's meeting happen. Before we get started with the main presentation, I want to walk through the goals and format for tonight's meeting. First, I will introduce the project team, including the department leadership and the consultant liaison teams and the design team, and also explain how to interact with us during the meeting. Then we will have the technical portion of the presentation, which will include the condition of the existing structure, the purpose and need for the project, and the recommended design, which was progressed to a 30% level. Following the technical presentation, we will open up the forum to comments and questions. Next slide, please. This is the Title VI Notice to the Public, which states that the Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the chapter of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes he or she has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under the title may file a complaint with CTDOT. Next slide, please. This slide has the Title VI Notice to the Public in Spanish. I will pause on the screen for a minute before moving on to the next slide. Next slide, please. As part of the Title VI Civil Rights, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. A link is provided on this slide for additional civil rights information. We greatly appreciate it if you would complete the public survey after tonight's meeting. A link and a QR code are provided on this slide. Links to both the public survey and the civil rights flyer are also available on the project website. A recording of this presentation will be posted to YouTube after the event, and closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on Zoom and YouTube. Next slide, please. Available to those joining us tonight through Zoom is the option to view captions or subtitles. To turn on this feature, select the Show Captions button or the CC button at the top of your screen. Then select the Speaking Language button and then select the desired language. Next slide, please. To use the Zoom Q&A function, select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the webinar window. The Q&A window will open as seen on the right. Then you can type the question in the text box and click Enter, and it will submit the question. Next slide, please. Questions can be submitted in multiple ways. For the quickest response, please submit questions to the Zoom Q&A as noted on the previous slide. This function will only be available during tonight's meeting. If you would like to submit your questions via email, please use the email provided, dot0092-0695@ct.gov. Excuse me. And lastly, if you prefer to submit your question by phone, you can call the number 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. Please state your name and reference the project number as a reason for your call in the voicemail. The project email, voicemail, and Q&A box will be screened by the project team, and the project team will then read the questions out loud. Questions may be asked at any time during the presentation, but they will be answered at the end. There's also a project webpage where a recording of tonight's meeting will be made available. The webpage will also include information that was explained on how to leave questions and comments for the project team. That website is http://ct.gov/DOT New Haven 92-695. The question and comment period by email or phone will be open through July 9th for for questions or comments after tonight's meeting may be submitted until July 9th via email or voicemail. Sorry. Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce the project team first from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. We have Bart Sweeney, Division Chief of Bridges, Derek Lassard, the Principal Engineer, Francisco Fadul, the Project Manager, and Corey Burrows, myself, the Project Engineer. Additionally, CHA is working on this project as the department's consultant liaison engineers. From CHA, we have Don Wurst as the Program Manager and Jen Pixley as the Project Engineer. Hardesty in Hanover is the consultant design engineer for this project, and Chris Baker is the project manager, and Catherine Inzinia, the project engineer. VN is the sub-consultant for traffic. With VN, we have Alex Boyer as the project engineer. And now I will hand over the presentation to Catherine Inzia for the technical presentation.
Thank you, Corey. This is a project location map showing the bridges located in the city of New Haven. Next slide, please. This slide shows an aerial map of the project site. The limits include I-91 southbound and the I-91 southbound on-ramp from Willow Street. The bridge crosses over State Street, shown on the left hand of the slide, the I-91 on-ramp from Willow Street, the I-91 off-ramp to Willow Street, and the Mill River. The I-91 northbound limits are not included in the project. Next slide, please. Here's a project aerial zoomed in with the span numbers, as you could see for both spans, for both bridges. I-91 southbound is Bridge A, which is the I-91 southbound main line, which is 14 spans, spans A through span N. The I-91 southbound on-ramp is Bridge B, which is 3 spans to the north, span O, P, and Q. We will cover the repair work on each span on the following slides. Next slide, please. The following 3 slides show 5 typical cross-sections on the I-91 southbound bridge and the I-91 southbound on-ramp bridge. The first one on the top of the screen is for span A. The second one shown is for span C at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. The next cross-section at the top is showing span F. Next cross-section is span J for the main line. Next slide, please. Lastly, the last slide is showing the bridge cross-section for the ramp, Bridge B, which is spans O, P, and Q. Next slide, please. The purpose of the project is to address the deficiencies affecting bridges A and B in order to maintain safe vehicular travel and increase the service life of the structures. The needs are as follows: to increase the service life, increase the substandard load rating capacity to a 1.2 or better for all Connecticut DOT rating vehicles, repair the superstructure steel to meet a condition rating of satisfactory, which is a 6, to repair and patch the existing substructure, to clean and metallize all of the steel superstructure, to maintain the existing I-91 traffic lanes during peak hours, and to replace the pin and hangers with stainless steel components. Next slide, please. This slide shows a figure of the National Bridge Inventory Rating Scale, which ranges from a 9, which is excellent condition, to a 1, which indicates imminent failure condition. The project need is to raise the NBI condition rating to a 6, which is satisfactory condition. Any ratings that are a 5 or below is what Connecticut DOT strives to repair, which is the purpose of this project. Next slide, please. Here are some photographs of the bridge deck, including the top of the deck, bottom of deck, barrier, and the joints. The condition ratings range from an 8 for the newly overlaid deck pavement that was done in April 2024 of this year to a 5 for the deck joints. Next slide, please. This slide covers the bulk of the repairs for this project. These show some photos of the steel girders supporting the concrete deck. The condition ratings vary from a 3 for the paint system that's failed, as you could see in the bottom middle photograph, to a 5 and a 6 for the steel bearings, pin and hanger components, and girders. This project will upgrade these components to a condition rating of 6. Next slide, please. Here are some photos of the substructure components. This includes the concrete abutments, which are the elements that supports the end of the bridge, and the piers, which are the concrete elements that support the bridge in the middle. The substructure ratings range from a 5 to a 6 or a 7, depending on which bridge you're looking at, the ramp or the main line. Next slide, please. Here are some photos showing the bridge channel. One criteria that must be rated per the NBIS ratings is the channel. The various condition ratings for the channel are all above a 6. We are not planning to do any work within the channel. Next slide, please. This slide shows the scope of work items for the steel components. We will strengthen the structural steel members to meet the load rating requirements, repair all deteriorated steel, replace the pin and hanger and hinge assemblies, redundant supports and windlocks, clean and metallize the entire steel superstructure and steel pier caps, and also replace fixed expansion bearings as needed, replace steel pier cap bearings. Next slide, please. This slide covers the scope of work items for the concrete components, including replacement of the deck joints, repairing the deteriorated areas of the concrete bridge deck, replacing the bituminous concrete overlay and waterproofing membrane, repairing existing parapets and barriers with concrete patching, applying the penetrating sealer protective compound on the parapets and concrete surfaces adjacent to the roadways, repairing and patching deteriorated concrete substructure elements, cleaning the scuppers, which are part of the bridge drainage system, and extending the weep pipes. Next slide, please. This slide shows a plan view of half of the I-91 southbound bridge and the I-91 southbound on-ramp bridge. The rehabilitation work will be done in 3 stages on I-91 southbound. The work over State Street will be done in 2 sub-stages. Alex will talk about the traffic staging shortly. Next slide, please. This is a plan view of the second half of the I-91 southbound bridge. The rehabilitation work will be done in 3 stages on I-91 southbound, and the work will be done for the 2 I-91 northbound ramps to and from Willow Street will be done in 2 sub-stages. Now Alex will talk about the maintenance and protection of traffic.
Thank you, Catherine. Existing conditions and improvements for bridges A and B. As mentioned before, the I-91 southbound bridge is a 4-lane freeway that spans over State Street, 2 I-91 ramps, and the Mill River as shown in this slide. The I-91 entrance ramp has a single lane that joins the I-91 southbound, and both facilities are at 50 miles per hour. The proposed main improvements include pavement replacement, deck joint replacement, and bridge repairs. Next slide, please. Maintenance and protection of traffic, MPT. Traffic along the I-91 bridge will be maintained by temporary shoulder and lane closure during nighttime periods. This will require temporary traffic shifts and temporary ramp closures with detours. The work on I-91 entrance ramp will require ramp closures with detours during nighttime periods as well. And just to be clear, the new Mill River Trail will not be impacted by this project. Next slide, please. The maintenance and protection of traffic will be accomplished in 3 stages. This slide shows stage 1. To complete the work, I-91 outside lanes will be closed while keeping 3 lanes open. The entrance ramp from Willow Street will be closed and traffic will be detoured. Now the traffic on State Street and the I-91 ramps will be shifted to either side of the road so no traffic will run under any active bridge work. Next slide, please. This slide shows stage 2. To complete the work, I-91 outside lanes will be closed while keeping 2 lanes open. the entrance ramp from Willow Street and from US 5 will be closed and traffic will be detoured. As in the previous case, the traffic on State Street and the I-91 ramps will be shifted to either side of the road, so no traffic will run under any active bridge work. Next slide, please. This slide shows the final stage, stage 3. To complete the work, this time the I-91 inside lanes will be closed while keeping 3 lanes open. No ramp needs to be closed in this stage. And again, the traffic on State Street and the I-91 ramps will be shifted to either side of the road, so no traffic will run under any active bridge work. Next slide, please. These next 2 slides show a visual representation of the traffic shift along State Street and the northbound I-91 ramps. On State Street, as shown here, traffic will be shifted to either side of the road and converted to a one-way alternating traffic. This temporary traffic arrangement will occur only during nighttime periods, and at least one sidewalk will remain open at all times for pedestrian access. Next slide, please. The traffic along the northbound I-91 ramps, as shown in here, will be shifted to either side of the ramp to allow construction workers to access the I-91 bridge from below. And once again, this temporary traffic arrangement will occur only during nighttime periods. Next slide, please. Detour routes. As mentioned earlier, 2 I-91 entrance ramps are required to be closed during nighttime periods only in order to complete the bridge work. Drivers affected by these ramp closures will be detoured using other roads. The first detour shown here will occur when the entrance ramp from Willow Street is closed. As shown in the slide, the traffic will be redirected going west to Whitney Avenue and then south to Trumbull Street and finally east to rejoin I-91. Next slide, please. The second detour will occur when both entrance ramps from Willow Street and US 5 are closed. As shown in this slide, this detour is similar to the previous detour, but in this case, traffic on US 5 will continue south to Willow Street, then west to Whitney Avenue, and then south to Trumbull Street to finally going east to rejoin I-91. And now back to Corey.
Thank you, Alex. On this slide, I will present the preliminary project schedule and cost, which is subject to change as the design progresses. We are currently in the preliminary design phase and will be moving to final design in the fall. Our plan is to begin construction in the summer of 2026 with an end of construction summer 2028. We anticipate the construction costs to be about $29.6 million and is funded by federal and state funds. This project will be done at zero cost to the city of New Haven. Next slide, please. This concludes the presentation for tonight's meeting. We will now move into the open forum portion for our comments and questions. As a reminder, you can enter your questions in the Zoom Q&A window, or you can submit an email in the following email address, dotproject0092-0695@ct.gov, or by phone at 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail, or drop a question in the Zoom Q&A chat. A reminder, you can call in at 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail and reference project 0092-0695 as your message. we have one question. Will the alignment of the on-ramp from State Street Route 5 to I-91 southbound be changed? I'm going to have Alex from VN Engineers answer this one.
Thank you, Corey. No, the alignment on the ramp will not change.
Thank you, Alex. I also want to remind everyone that the comment period will be open through July 9th, 2024, should you think of a question after the meeting. You can email the project email at dotproject0092-0695@ct.gov or call the number 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail referencing project number 0092-0695. As a reminder, a recording of the presentation will be also posted to the project website following tonight's meeting. You can find that website on this slide. The address is https://portal.ct.gov/DOT New Haven 92-695. On the project website, you'll also find a link to this presentation on YouTube as well. As a reminder, you can enter the questions into the Q&A window and the project team will answer them as soon as we can during this presentation. I will wait about another minute to see if any more questions come in. If you're watching on YouTube, we will have the recording of on the project website, and you can watch the entire presentation after tonight, including the question and answer session. At the conclusion of the comment period, the recorded meeting will be drafted for the presentation that will include all questions and answers during the meeting and during the comment period as well. Final call for questions, please. If anybody has a question, you can drop it in the Q&A window and the project team will answer. Otherwise, if you have a thought of a question after the meeting, you can call the phone number 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail referencing this project. Or you can send an email to dotproject0092-0695@ct.gov. And somebody will answer your question. All right, it looks like that's it for questions tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for attending and your participation in tonight's virtual public information meeting. We appreciate everybody's time, input, and questions. As I previously said, we will be monitoring the phone and the email address until the comment period, which is through July 9th, 2024. A link to the project website has been posted to the chat. We are looking forward to a successful project here in New Haven. Thank you again, and I hope to enjoy the rest of your night.